The Cursed Lighthouse. Listen up, guys. I've got a story that'll keep you awake for days. This isn't made up. It happened to me a couple of years ago when I went to the coast in Cornwall, England, with my friends. There's an old lighthouse there that locals say is cursed, and those who saw strange lights either vanished or lost their minds. I didn't believe in those tales back then. But after what happened, well, grab a seat. You'll want to hear this. My name's Tom, and I was with my friends, Sarah, Mike, and Jess. We're all from Bristol, always up for an adventure. So we decided to take a mini vacation, rent a cottage by the sea, do some fishing, and explore the cliffs. On our first day, we were at a local pub when this scarred old man with a hollow stare told us about the lighthouse. It's been abandoned since the 60s, after the last keeper, a guy named Hart, disappeared. People said that at night, strange lights appeared there. Green, cold, like they came from underwater. Those who got too close came back changed, or didn't come back at all. The old man ended with a warning. Don't go there if you value your life. We laughed it off, but Sarah, who's obsessed with the occult, got all excited. Tom, let's go check it out. The next evening we went. It was dark, the moon barely shining through the clouds, and the wind howled so fiercely it gave me chills. The lighthouse stood on the edge of a cliff, all crooked, with peeling paint, surrounded by nothing but the sound of waves crashing below. Mike and I cracked jokes to ease the tension, but Jess was quiet the whole time, and Sarah led us forward like she was possessed. When we reached the lighthouse door, it was ajar, even though the lock looked rusted, like it hadn't been touched in decades. Inside, it reeked of dampness and something rotting, as if the sea had been seeping in for years. We climbed the spiral staircase, which creaked so badly I thought it'd collapse. With every step, the air felt heavier, like something was pressing on my chest. At the top, in the keeper's room, we found an old lantern covered in dust and a bunch of papers scattered on the floor. Sarah started reading them. They were Hart's diaries. He wrote about seeing them, creatures that came from the sea, with eyes like dead stars and arms as long as ropes. They demanded he keep the lighthouse lit, or they'd take him. The last entry was circled in red. I can't do this anymore. They want more than the light. Mike, who'd been joking earlier, suddenly went pale and said, "Guys, did you see that?" We turned. Outside the window, at the base of the cliff, those green lights were glowing. They were moving, slowly climbing up the rocks, like something was crawling toward the lighthouse. Jess started panicking, yelling that we needed to leave, but Sarah, as if in a trance, grabbed the lantern and tried to turn it on. I tried to stop her, but she flipped the switch, and the light burst on, green, cold, just like the ones outside. At that moment, a sound like cracking glass filled the air, and the whole lighthouse shook. We bolted down the stairs, but halfway down, Jess tripped and fell. I turned to help her, but then I saw it. Something was coming up from the darkness below. Long, slimy arms covered in scales reached for her. She screamed, but the sound cut off as one of the arms wrapped around her throat. Mike lunged to help, but he was thrown against the wall with such force that he collapsed unconscious. Sarah just stood there, staring, frozen. I grabbed her arm and dragged her toward the exit, but the door we'd left open was now locked. I slammed my shoulder into it until it gave way, and Sarah and I stumbled outside. But what we saw was a nightmare. At the base of the lighthouse, on the rocks, stood figures, tall, hunched, with eyes glowing green. There were dozens of them, and they were slowly climbing toward us. I heard Mike scream from inside, his voice full of agony, but I couldn't go back. Sarah and I ran to the woods, not looking back, until we reached the road. That's when I noticed Sarah was still clutching the lantern, and it was glowing that same green light. We got back to Bristol 2 days later, but Mike and Jess never returned. The police found nothing, no bodies, no traces, just an empty lighthouse. Sarah changed after that. She stopped talking, and at night she'd just sit, staring out the window, holding that lantern. I tried to support her, but one night she vanished. I found the lantern on her bed with a note. "They're calling me back." I burned the note, but the lantern, it was back on my desk the next day like someone had brought it. A year passed, and I thought it was over until the nightmares started. Every night I saw the lighthouse, those creatures, and heard Mike and Jess's screams. But last night's dream was different. I was standing on the cliff, surrounded by those things. They didn't attack. They just watched, waiting. Then I felt something cold on my neck, a slimy hand, just like back then. I turned and there was Sarah, her skin grey, her eyes glowing green, her mouth stretched into a grotesque smile. She grabbed my throat, her nails digging into my flesh, tearing it open. Blood poured down as she leaned in close, and I woke up. But that's not the end. When I got up, my neck was burning. In the bathroom mirror, I saw the marks, deep scratches, oozing blood. And then I heard it, faint but clear, the sound of waves and the distant hum of the lighthouse. They've found me.